I'm here with Ardek of Carach Angren to talk about the new EP, The Cult of Kariba, out right now on Season of Mist. Man, it's been a long time since we've chatted.
Yeah, it's been a couple of decades, but no, almost half a decade.
It feels like a couple of decades. It feels like a couple of decades. So let's talk about this EP. Where did you find the inspiration and talk a little bit about the concept behind it as well?
Well, I was reading some Lovecraft short stories at a certain point, some years ago already, and at the same time, like Sergor, he was like he stumbled upon some information that the story of Lammendam, our first album, was way more expanded than we thought. Like there were like spin-offs and there were more layers to it. So we revisited the place in the forest actually there. We did like a photo shoot and we always like to come there when we're in the Netherlands. And we started like brainstorming like, hey, would it be cool to make like a sort of a sequel or like an additional release? And yeah, we both were excited. So we started researching and there was actually this whole story about a witch called Kariba. A guy made a poem in 1870 and he wrote about it, how she would betray people, poison people. And so that's kind of interesting. So it felt like this parallel plot. So, and also there were like similarities. So the White Lady of London could in fact be Kariba the witch or not, or they could be separate figures. And so this was really cool. And then at the same time, what I was telling about Lovecraft sometimes talks about cults and like things. When you read his stories, it's very much about atmosphere, like things going wrong, and that feeling of dread and fear, and that sort of stuck with me. And I was thinking, would be crazy if there was like a secret cult in your neighborhood, people gathering at night, maybe like the baker, people you know, maybe friends even, and that sort of stuck with me. And then this idea connected to the Lammendam story, like what if there was like in these days a cult trying to resurrect the ghost? So it sort of happened, and yeah, we started working.
Wow, it sounds really like interesting in terms of the roadmap that you guys took to get where you currently are. Now,
Yeah.
creating a concept record is nothing new for you, for the band. Is it more challenging to create a full-length concept-driven album or an EP? Because in an EP, you kind of have a lot less room to play when it comes to telling a story.
It was exactly the same. The funny thing is like I didn't realize how people view EPs up until now, because for us it's just like a full album, but okay, there are less songs. So, but it's even harder because these songs really need to be good. Like, I mean, we always have these high standards. I mean, this is like we drive ourselves crazy with it. Like we it has to be 100%. But for us, it's the same amount of work because the story needs to be told. It needs to be perfect. Needs to be musically entertaining. Every song in itself needs to be very good. Because I also feel like some people don't really care about the story so much, and you still should be able to enjoy it. There's still artwork. There's a video clip. It's all the same, and it's just a couple less songs. Now, during the process, there were some ideas like, why don't you make a full album? Why don't you just throw in a couple of songs more? But it just didn't fit because this story is rather short in its nature, and it felt like, okay, you could add some things, but it felt like betraying ourselves, and it felt like just making something up to add to it. And I think that would have sunk the whole release. Our friends would have caught up to it, like, these extra songs, And we didn't want to avoid it, but it's the same amount of work in a way, which is kind of funny because I understand from the outset it looks like, oh, it's just an EP, it's much shorter, but for us it's the same. Yeah.
Wow, the same amount of work. I honestly thought an EP would be more work than the full-length album because the full-length album you have a much bigger canvas to play with. So a
True.
storyline can spread out from one song to another. On an EP, you really have to be concise.
Yeah, yeah, and this story sort of fit because it's like an introduction, then there's like some history of the witch and the resurrection going wrong, and then we are already at the end. So it was like immediately it fitted in the idea of an EP. So from the very first like brainstorm sessions, we had this like, okay, let's do an EP, let's do 4 or 5 songs. It will fit. And but you're right. I mean, it is challenging. Yeah,
So
definitely it
I'm
is.
assuming based on your answer that for you there's no difference, that we're gonna have to wait another 2 or 3 years until the next full-length album.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah, no, yeah, we just cannot do it very fast. Like we have some new material already, um, but like I said, like these songs, some of them are already like 4 years old. Some basic songs I wrote already in 2021. But it's just those details like throughout the time that you revisit them, you put them away, that make the song like not an 8 but a 9, or not a 9 but a 10, and we really want that, and we always have to be super excited about it. I don't know why that is, but it also helps with touring. If you have an album that you're not super excited about, how you're gonna go through all the trouble of touring. And so yeah, I'm glad that we have this kind of high bar. Yeah.
How much of your own, because during the pandemic, around that time, you released some solo material,
Yeah.
and how much has your own personal material and your own personal choices musically, how much of that are you seeing creeping into the Carach Angren sound?
Some of it, yeah. I mean, there's definitely one song on this album that's like industrial more. Actually, that song I wrote pretty fast, and I sent it to Dennis, and I was like, I'm not sure. What do you think about it? It was like done in a couple of days, and he was like, yeah, this is amazing. And he came with this Dutch lyric, so it became something very special. But the other songs are very much like, I think, true to our roots. It's much more like orchestral and black metal. I wanted a lot of speed on this one, so it was like a lot of blast beats I put in, like, and a lot of aggression, and because we came out of the Frankenstein stuff, which was more mid-tempo mainly. So with this, I was more like, okay, if we're gonna go back to Lammendam and through this urban legends, and we're gonna go a little bit back to the roots, I wanted to be like really in your face, and like, and I was thinking like what the fans would think if they would listen to, for example, Draw Blood. It opens very heavy, and then it goes even heavier into the blast beat part, and like, so yeah, to come back to your question, like a part of it stuff creeps in, but like as a musician you're always developing, trying out new things, and I think we have even become better at like the core style, hopefully, um, because it wouldn't make sense to just repeat ourselves constantly. So but yeah, we always try to do something new but also keep the old, because else we would never completely go into a different genre, for example.
One of the great things about the band, from my perspective, has always been the storytelling aspect. You guys are really good at telling stories, creating a soundtrack for the story, really framing the whole process. Regardless of where you're going to take the sound, is that storytelling aspect, would you say, the core and the foundation of what the band is?
I think so, but it happened sort of accidentally, because when we started, like 22 years ago, we wanted to make a demo very quickly, and then we had this story of the Chase Vault coffins, and I told Dennis like, wouldn't I think it's pretty cool to just have like one story on like this little demo? Then it's also easier because everything connects, and then we sort of did it again, and we found out that not a lot of bands were doing that, so it sort of stuck with us, and. But I always felt like it is story driven, but I also feel that the songs should just be very good in themselves. For example, on this EP, you notice that it starts like very linearly, like there's an introduction, there's a cult leader, things happen, there's like a sacrifice, but then we sort of break the pattern, and we start going back into this history of Kariba. Then this uninvited guest comes in into the Dutch song. So we also like to just break the pattern with the linear storytelling and just go more abstract, because I think it can also become boring if you just keep telling like, okay, the cult leader went there, and then the cult leader did this, and then like, so we, in the end, it's also art, and you should also not be afraid to just like ruin your own storyline or do something unexpected. And yeah, so the story is important, but not like important in the sense that we would, for example, make like 8-minute songs just to fit in the storyline. Like there's a balance between like make good songs that are like hitting hard and still make the story going. Yeah.
A nice fine balance. By the way, you were speaking about the song that's in Dutch. We checked out
Yeah.
the music video on the channel, and I gotta ask you, did you guys shoot that video in the Netherlands?
No, it's in Serbia. Yeah.
Did people look at you guys weird when you guys were shooting that video?
Some of them, but the funny thing is like we were there with corpse paint all the time, of course, and there was a lot of stuff happening. But some people would turn around or stop, and but mostly people would also get going, keep going because it's like a busy city and it was night already. And so that was interesting because part of the story was like when I was talking to Zoran, Zoran heard the EP before, and I explained to him about Kariba the witch, and he asked me like, "What do you think the witch would look like if she would be back in these times?" I said, "That's a very good question," and then he came up with this basically like an addict or someone living in the streets. I said, "That's really interesting because I think that's how it would look." And then he casted this amazing actress Julia, and she is very, very good at this like motionless, like muscle controlled movements and stuff. And he developed this idea, and we really liked it because it's like it connects to the story, but it's also not like the literal narration of what's happening in the song. And I like that. I like that when we have done our thing to attract other people like Zoran or, for example, Heileman who did the artwork, and to see like, what does this tell you? What can you come back with what it creates in your mind? And I think that's really cool. Yeah.
When you got the lyrics back and you saw that that song was going to be in Dutch, were you surprised by it?
I knew that like for some time he told me already like I have this Dutch lyrics, and when I sent him this song, he said these Dutch lyrics are gonna fit, and I have this main melody in the song. It's like tum 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 tum, and it's literally like ik kom uit het graf. So it's like okay, this has to be it. And the funny thing is like the lyrics are pretty gruesome and over the top, especially when you are like native Dutch speaker. It's like it's pretty intense. So he sung them, and actually he sung even more lyrics. It was very crowded, the song in the beginning. And he thought that I would take some of it out because it was like way over the top. But I was so shocked when I first heard what he was singing. But I also realized, like, I think this is what it's about, and I think it has to be in there. And he called me 3 times, like, "Are you sure?" Because he's used to me, like, taking the over the top stuff. "Are you really sure? Are you really sure?" I said, "Yeah, I think this is it." And we did it like that.
Well, being in Dutch also makes it a little bit easier for us that don't speak the language. We don't get that much detail on the gruesomeness. But
Yes.
I feel like certain songs, when you sing in your native language, it just gives you a lot more tools to convey a lot more emotion, to convey a lot more feelings, which allows you to drive the concept of the song even further. Do you see that in this track?
Yeah, you hit it, the point there, definitely, because like he uses like slang that's from his own neighborhood and things like that, and he's going really into it. And there were some sounds in the song that I put. There's like this very creepy, like it's almost like flies. There's like a noise, and I did that with my voice. Like it's like it goes throughout the song. And when he put those lyrics on top and this emotion, it hit home, and I was like, this performance he did was astonishing. It was so creepy and so aggressive, and he put everything in there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I always feel that like certain tracks, English obviously works, but in certain songs, if you want to go a little bit further with the feeling and the vibe, definitely speaking in your own native language helps a lot. I have to ask you about the legacy of the band. You guys have been around for a very long time. Everybody
Yeah.
knows who Carach Angren is. When it's time to create new music, who puts the biggest pressure on you? Is it you? Is it the band or the fans, the legacy? Where do you see the pressure coming from?
I think it's myself because also now, like, it's funny. I was obviously reading some reviews and the reception, and it was very good again. And at the same time, that put like more pressure. Like, oh shit, the next one has to be very good as well. It's always like that. Like, um, and we think about legacy. Actually, like Dennis had like heart problems last year. He was very close to not being here, to be honest. So that put us like in a big delay. And also as friendship, we were talking a lot about holy shit, like this is our legacy. It could have ended here. And we were talking a lot about it, and we're very proud and that we are still doing this, and we love it so much. Like we probably will never stop doing it because, like, yeah, we're in our 40s now, and we're just grown into it. And so yeah, no one's putting pressure outside. Like we just decide, like, okay, we're going to do another one, and when and how. And usually, we do well. Yeah.
You guys also just did an Asian tour. I think you guys were in China, Japan, if I'm not mistaken. But you
Yeah.
definitely were in the Asian circle, if you will. How was that experience for you guys?
Crazy. Like I'm still jet lagged, so I wake up weird times and sleep at weird times. But it was crazy because we were there 10 years ago, so there's been a long time. Back then it was also really cool, and there's actually a lot of fans, like really dedicated fans. Like they come to the show with corpse paint and like costumes and everything. And we did meet and greets like every day, and it was really awesome. Like they would give us presents and a lot of pictures, things like that. And they had all the albums, all the merch. So it was like, because it's like this whole world, in Asia, especially China, it's extremely big. So it's really cool to go there and like play multiple shows and meet everyone. Yeah.
When are you guys planning to come back to North America at any time soon? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. Well, times it's what I heard recently. It's kind of difficult now with visas. It's pretty uncertain, so they put some pressure on it to go that route again. We would love to come back, so we're always looking into the possibilities. Um, but yeah, that's one thing right now that concerns me a little bit. Um, yeah, we're looking into European shows and the festivals again, maybe Latin America. So we'll see what comes our way now. The new release definitely will help to gain some more interest. Yeah.
Yeah, with this new release now, do you see this shaping the 2026 years as a busy year for you? Because we're already in October, the record comes out now. There's not a lot of room between now and the end of the year, but is this more like an opening of the door for hitting the road hard in 2026?
Yeah, and 2027, because what has happened now is that like the time between booking a tour and even shows has become much longer since a couple of years. I think it has to do with all the costs and and it's very busy. A lot of bands are going out, and so I remember a couple of years ago you could book a show couple of months or even a tour, and now it's like at least a year. What I've heard from the booking agency, so they're working very hard now to get into even 2027 to get stuff for us done. So yeah, hopefully, but it helps definitely because they have this new release and they can push harder. Yeah.
Definitely, you need some new music if you're gonna hit the road, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's crowded out there. A lot of bands, a lot of good stuff. So you need to knock on the door. Yeah.
But one thing about Carach Angren is you guys have a very specific style and a very specific sound. Do you still see yourselves a little bit as the unicorn in when it comes to extreme metal, when it comes to black metal? Because I feel like you guys are still in a genre that's super crowded with so many bands. You guys are still very unique in your own way.
Yeah, I mean, you could call it niche, and I think like we still attract like new fans, and then they discover the whole discography. I hear that back also from the record label a lot. Like when someone finds out one album, they usually go into all the albums. So that's really cool, and I think that confirms that we have something special. But it's hard to see that when you create it yourself. Like sometimes to me, it's like it's hard to see that. Like we just do what we really love, and we make it super good as we can, and then somehow like it works and it fits and it has a very special place in the whole scene, which is cool. And yeah, we get confirmation again now with great reviews, great response. People say wonderful things about it, so that yeah, it feels always good, of course. But like yeah, the main thing is like we create what we really like. So we are like on the phone, like wow, this part, and like going crazy. And even before it comes out, we really love it. And I think that's like the maybe the formula that makes it work for other people as well.
Being
Yeah.
far apart, the two of you, has that made things more challenging or not so much in this modern world of swapping files?
The funny thing is not so much because we both tend to be like on our own as persons, and before we would live like a couple of hours apart in the Netherlands, and we would work the same. So it was like calling a lot. Like we do a lot of like very long phone calls and like talk about everything, and that still is the same. So it feels actually pretty close. And I'm very happy with that because it could have been otherwise. But yeah, no, we talked like every week, couple of times, and about everything, and for years, and yeah, there's absolutely no problem. Yeah,
The chemistry is still there, I must say. And with this new, The Cult of Kariba, the chemistry is definitely there. I really enjoyed it. But I always enjoy what you guys do. I've been a fan of you guys for a very long time, so I always enjoy listening to the music and what you guys create and watching that music video. I gotta tell you, that was, I mean, I didn't understand what was going on lyrically, but the video was freaking visual and disturbing as well. So that was
yeah,
like, wow, this is different. So that was really cool.
good, thanks. Yeah, 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 and there was a lot of people working on like that worm. We still have it. It was done by a guy who does like special effects for movies and stuff, and he makes like zombie faces and everything. So it was like we first had it in our hand. It was like, holy shit, it feels so real. And then they did some CGI to make it like move with the legs and stuff. There was some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, it was like the whole time I'm thinking, man, people must have been looking at them really weird on the streets or something like that. Because if I was walking by and seeing that shit, I would be like, what the fuck is happening here? But
Yeah,
very typical of you guys always pushing the envelope and bringing that gore
yeah,
into your music. Ardek, thank you very much for your time, man. It's always a pleasure to see you, always a pleasure to talk to you.
the
Thank
same.
you for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.